Alright. When I'm uploading this video, I should be in Hamburg, Germany. Yeah. And by the way, I wrote this script, this House of Cards Season 1 script, in 2017, October. So, it's pretty early. It's pretty long time ago. But anyway, hey guys, what's up? And today I'm gonna do a review on the first season of House of Cards. Even though, the Kevin Spacey controversy is a thing, but it still doesn't take away the fact that House of Cards is a pretty good show, not gonna lie. Don't let an actor's actions affect their TV shows or movies' quality. So the year was 2016 when the politics of the United States took a turn. I was really surprised at the results of the presidential election, and this show is now more relevant than ever. The story basically involves around a smart, manipulative, ambitious congressman, Frank Underwood, and his wife, Claire Underwood, who also knows about Frank's plots and schemes. And Frank had a sidekick, Doug, who was also aware of Frank's true personality. Then we also have characters like Peter Russo, who looks like John Bernthal's long-lost twin brother. And then there's the very young and social Zoe Barnes, who worked at the Herald, played by Kate Mara, I think. Anyway, there are no episode titles technically, and every episode is considered a chapter, like a book. And the show creator is Bo Willimon, which isn't a big famous name, but this show is adapted from a book actually, so the chapter episode title kind of makes sense. Chapter 1 and 2 are directed by the great David Fincher, who directed Fight Club, The Social Network, and the Millennium's Trilogy, so that has a strange, dark, and ominous tone to it. Chapter 1 and 2 are also really fast-paced and ambitious. Right off the bat, Garrett Walker was elected as president, and Donald Blythe was responsible for the education bill, and Michael Kern was elected as the Secretary of State instead of Frank. So Frank managed to push Donald Blythe off the education bill and push Michael Kern off as Secretary of State. And Frank used Zoe Barnes to control the masses with the power of social media. Chapters 3 to 4 are pretty slow and confusing. It's not the writer's fault, don't get me wrong, it's just that I'm not up to date with all the political systems and I'm not too familiar with politics, so it's kind of confusing with all these political terms and all that, but still, these two episodes are still pretty decent and pretty solid. Although it's slightly more uneventful, slightly only. On Chapter 5, I really sympathize with Peter Russo for being used by Frank, and I also really love the whole Martin Spinella versus Frank beef and the protesting outside a party scene. Zoe also faced challenges to find jobs and help Frank using social media to control the masses again. Chapter 6 is even more entertaining with the climax of the Martin versus Frank beef, the teachers' strike, etc. I'm really impressed with Frank's elaborate plots and schemes. I think the writers are pretty damn smart too. Chapter 7 and 8 are low points of the series. It's relatively weak and slow. Chapter 8 was really dragged because the whole thing was basically Frank having fun and singing songs with his old classmates and Peter going around talking to people, so it's basically a filler episode. Although not quite as much of a filler on, Peter Russo's side, but definitely a filler on Frank's side. Chapter 9 is a great comeback, in my opinion. We see Peter Russo standing up for himself, and that's cool. And there's also an unpredictable ending that I really like. And Chapter 10 and 11 are some of the most depressing and darkest TV episodes I've ever watched. I'm giving a spoiler alert. Damn it. Peter Russo could have actually been governor if it weren't for that big fuck-up on that night. Like what Doug said, if he drinks again, then the days of sobriety will go back to zero. And that was what happened to Russo. The temptation for alcohol and women really screwed up his campaign and himself. I was really rooting for the guy, to be honest, and that guy was really close to actually being successful. But a couple of negative votes from Claire, Rachel's stupid hotel room card, and Frank's evil moves, Peter would have still been alive if it weren't for those things. And Frank was more evil than I thought, to be honest. Not only did he intend Peter Russo to fail, he actually killed him. Literally. And that's really painful, a really painful way to end off the storyline. It's like anything that Peter Russo did was a waste of time, and a waste of energy, and a waste of life, even. So that's just fucked up. Then we have chapters 12 and 13, where the story gets way more complicated. So Frank Underwood kicked Jim Matthews out and wanted to run for vice president, which is very ambitious. And then Garrett Walker nominated Raymond Tusk, but apparently the truth is Garrett Walker wanted Raymond Tusk to tell him if Frank Underwood was a good person. So that's already quite complicated. But at the end, Frank Underwood really became the vice president, and that's great, I guess. Frank Underwood was a bad person, but I also kinda root for him somehow. I have no idea why. And chapter 13 is a really fast-paced and rushed episode, but at the end, it's really satisfying. Overall, it's an ingenious TV show that shows the dark side of politics. What Congressman Frank Underwood would do in order to climb up the ladder of power. I know it doesn't really work that way in real life. Maybe it's not as intense as the politics in real life, but at least it makes sense in the story. Politics also isn't that terrifying in real life, again, but politics in House of Cards is really scary. Fucking scary. There are a few excellent episodes with great dialogues and scenes. There are also a couple of slow filler episodes that I'm not too impressed with. But the story overall, it's really entertaining, and it makes the politics 10 times more interesting. The acting performances are great. Kevin Spacey is brilliant as Frank Underwood, but not as brilliant now. Michael Gill is good at Garrett Walker, and Corey Stoll is great as Peter Russo as well. And wow, like I'm literally reading off of this script, and now I realize that this TV review is very damn short. It's insane. But what I really want to talk about House of Cards is that it's such a subjective TV show. It's seen in Frank Underwood's point of view for most of the time, and we can see how dark and twisted politics are. And I love how prestige and expensive and rich the episode, the entire show overall feels. It really makes the whole, power thing even more significant and even more crucial and toxic when there are corruption and bribery going on. And it just reflects a lot about dark politics, to be honest. So the worst is chapter 8 and the best is chapter 11. I'm saying House of Cards season 1 is mind-blowing, and I'm giving it an 8 to a 9 out of 10. So, have you watched House of Cards season 1 from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And tell me, what other TV shows do you want me to review next? I have watched Mad Men and Lost season 1 and 2, but I never really got the chance to do a review on them, so maybe. And I finished watching Westworld season 2. I'm watching Handmaid's Tale season 2 as well. And I will be watching 13 Reasons Why and Breaking Bad very soon. And I still haven't done reviews on Supergirl and The Flash season 1 to 3, as well as other smaller TV shows such as Touch, Under the Dome, and The Mentalist, which are 3 TV shows that I've watched when I was way younger. But, Goodbye.